All right, everybody. Looks like we are live. Looks like we're live. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. If anybody is out there watching already, it's always nice to know that things are working. So if you can give me a thumbs up that says you can hear us, or shoot me a message that says you can hear us, that would be great. It's nice to know that things are working. So I think everything's going just fine right now. The seminar is scheduled to start at 7 o'clock. We're a little bit early just to make sure everything is working correctly. So stay tuned, and I'm going to turn my microphone to mute, and we will be back shortly. Looks like people are tuning in rather quickly, which is good. That's good. So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back in just a few seconds. All right, I was just informed that when I muted the mic, it sounded terrible. So my apologies. We'll turn the microphone back on. Once again, we've got about 3 minutes to go before we get started. Please like, share, pass this on to your friends. Anybody that you think might be coming to Devil's Lake. Oh, hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. I didn't know Mom was going to watch tonight. That's kind of fun. I get to say hi to Mom in Ohio. Hope everything's good. If everyone can like, share, send this on to your friends. Like I said, anyone that's coming to Devil's Lake in the recent or near future, we'll do all we can to help out. Once again, I apologize for being indoors. That was not the plan ever for these events. We wanted to be outside, live on the water, but any of you from Devil's Lake will know exactly why I'm inside today. I actually finally thawed out. Believe it or not, I wore a stocking cap all day in the boat today on July the 8th, 7th, 6th, something like that. But stocking cap all day and put gloves on to drive to my first spot this morning. We probably got, I don't know, maybe half an inch of rain. Jay Hagan is here tonight as well, running the switchboard, helping me keep up with questions. But Jay, what do you think? Did we get a half inch of rain today? It had to be pretty close, I think. He's nodding his head that says we probably got 4/10. So questions, if you have any questions at any time, please type them in. We'll answer them as we go, and we'll check at the very end. And we're streaming on 2 sites tonight. The Devil's Lake Tourism site and my personal business site, Johnnie Candle Professional Angler. So I've got that on my phone here. If I keep looking down, that is why. Hopefully it's not too distracting, but I will be checking my phone if you're on my page, and Jay will be checking the Devil's Lake Tourism page as we're going. And again, if we don't catch them during the seminar, we will get them at the end. But please, lots of time tonight for questions and answers. I don't have a whole lot to cover, but I do. So let's just jump right in. It's 1 minute to 7. I'm sure people will catch up as they come along. Devil's Lake fishing. First of all, let's do a lake situation or status report just for the lake itself. For those of you that have been here, you know this already, but the water is down substantially. I'm going to say if we went 1 year ago today, we're down 2 feet. What does that mean for you coming here if you've never been here before? Well, you won't know the difference. That's kind of a good thing. If you've been here before and you're coming back and it's not been, you haven't been here before, it's your first trip, things are going to look a lot different. Here's what I would recommend. If you're in the main lake or east, so the main bay of Devil's Lake, East Bay, or East Devil's Lake, you need to remember that those bodies of water were there forever. The flooding spread the lake out the other direction, north and west. So if you're in the main bay, East Bay or East Devil's Lake, and you're in water deeper than about 21, 22 feet, that lake was always there. So you're not going to have to worry about hitting a flooded tree or anything like that. Now, I'm not going to say things don't drift around, float around, move around. You still have to keep your eyes open. Ask the person next to you riding along to not be on their phone or shooting the bull or tying knots. Ask them for an extra set of eyes. That will help out immensely. But again, if you're deeper than 21 feet of water or so, you're going to be really, really safe to just rip across the lake, not have to worry much. When you turn and go to shore to fish, slow down, idle in, idle out. I try to go perpendicular to the shore. It's the shortest distance from where I'm at to where I want to fish. And I idle in and out. Does it take a little longer to do that? Yeah. Does it make sure I'm not going to wreck anything? Absolutely it does. At idle speed, hitting a log, bouncing off a log, you're going to be okay. You're not going to puncture your boat. You're probably not going to wreck a propeller. So again, main lake and east, 21 feet of water or so. If you start at Graham's Island and go west, you got to remember that's where the flooding was. That's where it happened. The famous Mabe Flats and the Minnewacan Flats, that stuff was bone dry 35 years ago, 40 years ago. There was no water there. So you want to be a little more careful, but you're pretty safe deeper than about 18 feet of water when you go to the west. When you get up into Pelican Lake, obviously there's not a lot of 18 feet of water. That means there could be anything anywhere. But when you start getting close to shore again, when you're going into your fishing spots, slow down. Any flooded road, any railroad grade, anything like that, when you see grain bins or farm machinery out of the water, it's probably a good idea to assume that there's some under the water as well. So you're going to want to slow down when you get around those areas. Going in and out of some of the back bays, some of the more famous bays like New Mill Bay, Howard's Bay, Holly Bay, again, crossing railroad tracks maybe in Pelican Lake or getting to Boyd's Bay or some of the backwater areas of Pelican Lake. Even when you go to the east, getting into some of the sloughs and backwater bays down in Black Tiger Bay and some of that area, exercise extreme caution. Trim that motorway up. If you have a jack plate, lift that motorway up. A lot of spots, folks, that were 4 and 5 feet deep last year, they're 2 and 3 feet deep now. That could cause a lot of problems. So exercise caution, slow down a little bit. And I'm going to mention one other thing that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I fished next to the Mabe Coulee Bridge today. I tried to get out of the wind and rain. It was pretty nasty. There was a lot of current coming under the bridge. And by the way, we did catch a bunch of fish there on bobbers and vertical jigging with leeches. But there were more than a handful of boats that came under the bridge today. And the definition of idle speed must have changed in the last couple weeks, because my boat doesn't idle as fast as these boats were going through. And I have a 400 horsepower Mercury motor on the back of mine. So I don't get it. The bridges are really narrow. They're not so skinny. They're not shallow. There's plenty of water under every bridge in the lake to get through. But as the water has gone down, they're really skinny. There's not a lot of room. There's a lot of boats that fish around the bridges. There's a lot of people shore fishing. We had some complaints during the chamber fishing tournament. I get it. Guys were in a hurry. They wanted to get to and from fishing spots. But it's idle speed, folks, and it's for a reason. It's for safety. It's to show courtesy to the folks fishing from shore. So please, please, idle speed under the bridges. Slow down. slow down 40, 50 yards out. Wait till you're all the way through the bridge. Just because you're halfway under the bridge doesn't mean you can put the hammer down and take off. Wait till you're 40 or 50 yards away. I think the law in North Dakota is 200 feet from any shore is no wake anyway. So get out there 200 feet from shore before you take off. So that's what I've got to say about that. As far as water conditions, water temperature today, I fished north and west of Graham's Island. I had 71 degrees in the morning, and I had 71 degrees this afternoon. It didn't change a bit today. It was rather chilly. We got high temperature was in the mid 60s today. It rained quite a bit, so maybe that water temperature might even cool off overnight. We might lose a degree or two on the surface. Water quality is changing. It's getting green. It's that time of year. There is a fair amount of algae showing up in the water. As long as it's windy and it's churning things up, no issues. But the last few days, dead flat calm. It's starting to clump up, float to the surface. It may or may not interfere with your fishing. It all depends where you're at and how thick it's getting. But it is that time of year. The next couple weeks, the algae is going to continue to bloom. There's going to get to be more and more of it. No warnings or cautions yet for Devil's Lake for the blue-green algae, but I'm sure it's coming later on this summer. But other than the algae, the water clarity is great. You can see down pretty far. Really good clarity, but not too clean. Just about right where you want it. So fishing conditions are pretty good. So again, water shallow, 71 degrees, algae bloom is starting. So what does that mean for fishing? Well, when the algae bloom starts, for me personally, it means you can fish a little shallower and get away with it. So let's talk generalities fishing right now, and then I'll rattle off some locations around the lake. Again, I apologize. One of these days, I'm going to get a great big map of Devil's Lake and put behind me so everybody can follow along and I can point to these spots. But I'll use the most common names for the areas, try to describe them the best I can. You can follow along on a map at home. And if you have any questions, you can private message me later on. And if I have to, I'll do a screen capture and send you a picture of the spots I'm talking about. But I will share some locations where fish are biting rather well. But anyways, generalities. If you want to fish shallow, you can. There are still fish to catch casting, pitching, small crankbaits, number 5, shad wraps, flicker shads, number 7s. Shallow flicker shads have been working really well for me. Number 7 shallow flicker shad has been working phenomenally well. It's staying over the emerging weeds. Or if you want to pull crankbaits or troll spinners down the weed edges, 6 to 8 feet of water, there's a ton of fish shallow. I know a lot of the country by now, folks are fishing 12, 15, 18 feet. But here in Devil's Lake, we've got some walleyes that stay shallow most of the summer. And right now, you can still get those fish shallow. Wind helps. Wind blowing in, good. Weed edges, awesome. So stay on the outside edge of the weeds. Either fish right over the top or right down the edge. There's plenty of fish 8 feet or less. Flooded road beds, anywhere from 5 feet of water to 12, 15 feet of water. Not too many flooded roads deeper than that, but there are some. I'm not so sure I'd call them roads, maybe farmers' trails or agricultural roads, section lines, things like that that are out in that 20, 21 foot. But I have caught walleye in the last 5 days as shallow as 5 feet on flooded roads and as deep as 21. Might blow you away when I say this, but I put a 2-ounce bottom bouncer on no matter how deep the road is and troll right down it. If the fish are there and they're hungry, that 2-ounce bottom bouncer isn't going to scare anything away. Your boat's not going to scare them away. But flooded roads all around the lake are on fire. Some of the most common ones, obviously the number 1 flooded road in the lake is the Golden Highway. I have not fished there personally, heard plenty of great reports from the Golden Highway, and it's pretty obvious when you drive by the Golden Highway that there's fish to catch there. Today, in the worst conditions of all, there were 12 boats out there in the rain and wind. So they're on the Golden Highway pretty good. Some flooded roads in Pelican Lake. You got the Grain Bend Road, 52nd Avenue, a bunch of other roads up there. There are some boats going north of the railroad tracks. Not so sure I would advise that, but if you do, be very, very cautious. and there's guys trolling flooded roads north of the railroad tracks. Get over into East Bay and East Devil's Lake. You've got the Strummy Addition Road that's pretty good. And you get down in Black Tiger Bay, there's the old Mission Road. There's plenty of fish to be had on those roads as well. Again, flooded roads are nice. They're easy. They go straight. As you know, most roads in North Dakota go perfectly straight north and south or east and west. If you can drive your boat in a straight line, stay on a depth, follow that road. If you have side imaging technology, it makes it even easier. You get off the road to one side or the other and just steer left or right to get right back up on top of the road. I haven't had all that much success fishing in road ditches, but the tops of the roads have been great. Bottom bouncers and spinners are my #1 way to go right now. You can pull crankbaits, and if you get a road all to yourself and you find a nice little pocket of fish, don't be afraid to spot lock and anchor up and slip bobber those fish. But be mindful, if there's other people on the road and everybody wants to fish, it makes sense just to get in line and pull spinners or crankbaits up and down the road. Let everybody get their shot at those fish. If the wind's blowing hard, don't go against the wind. Put the wind at your back so everybody can go the same direction. We can all stay on the road. We can all cooperate. We can all get along, and we can all catch all kinds of fish. The next places that we're catching fish would be any rise in the bottom that's hard. Any hump or bump that might have a harder bottom or rocks compared to the surrounding bottom. So what kinds of places am I talking about here? Well, Maddock Ridge, Big Fish Hump in the Minnewacan Flats. The old Minnewacan Lagoons are another place where it's hard bottom up off the bottom of the lake. Any of the points, any of the humps. You get out in 6 Mile Bay near Doc Hagen's, there's some hard bottom rises in the structure there. There's points in the north end, Budweiser Point, Jerome's Bar. Any of those areas in the main lake, Military Point, Rocky Point, Beer Can Island just outside of Woodland Resort is good. Strummy's Point, Birkeland Point, Mitchell's Bar over in East Devil's Lake, or I'm sorry, in East Bay. The 3/4 mile reef outside of East Bay Campground. All those kind of spots are absolutely phenomenal right now. They're all loaded for fish or with fish. And you can catch them any way you want, depending on the depth. Again, bottom bouncers and spinners are really good. Trolling crankbaits has been working well. Vertical jigging with a leech or slip bobber fishing with a leech and a jig also working very, very well in those areas. But I guess what I'm trying to get at right now is that the fish are pretty much everywhere. The last pattern that folks are using is, believe it or not, the fish have moved out in some areas to the old lake shoreline. Just go out into that 20, 21, 22 feet of water. You can drive around until you see some rocky bottom, or you can just start fishing until you locate a school of fish. But again, just outside of Strummy's Point and East Bay has been good. The point directly across from Camp Grafton in the East Bay has been good. That area down around Mitchell's Bar, like I said, they're fishing Old Lake shoreline down there. Out in the main lake, I'm sure in front of Camp Grafton, there's got to be tons of fish there too. But anywhere you can get on that old lake shoreline, find some gravel, find some rock, and get a bait down there, you're probably going to catch a fish. Before today, the bite was absolutely on fire. Last week, 5 days in a row, I had limits for my clients in less than 2 hours, and those are 3 client limits, so 15 walleyes. The size this year, folks, and I almost hate to say this, knock on wood, but we have not got to that point where you're catching 6 fish to keep 1, and then you're stretching it to make it 14 inches long so you feel good about what you're keeping. The last week or so, 16 to 19 inch fish are fairly common. Every now and again you'd hit a day where you had to struggle maybe for an hour or 2 in the morning to get the right size fish, but it's been pretty good. Obviously there's smaller fish in the system. Some days you're going to land on the right fish, some days you're not, but I am pretty impressed with the health of the Devil's Lake walleye this year. Again, typically by the first part of July, I'm burning through a pound of leeches with bobbers, and I'm measuring every fish, trying to keep only 14 inches or better. That's what I keep for my guide clients, and nothing over 20. So I'm trying to fall into my self-imposed slot. And a lot of days, it's, boy, that's barely 14, or that's 14 and a quarter, 14 and a half. Oh, there's a 13 and 3/4, throw it back. Again, haven't had that yet this year. So things are looking up. The next week or so, the weather looks pretty good. Supposed to start turning around tomorrow, less wind, a little warmer. The weekend forecast coming up, absolutely gorgeous. Looks like it should be a great weekend. I don't think this cold front's going to set the fish back. I think by 10 o'clock, noon tomorrow, they're going to forget that it got cold today. And my prediction is the fishing will be right back where it should be by late tomorrow afternoon or the next day at the latest. So we've got some great summer fishing coming up. One thing that's really awesome about this time of the year, if you come this week and then the next week and then the next week and the next week, it's probably not going to change. Fishing's going to be pretty stable from now through August. Maybe more fish will trickle deeper, but that would be about it. So how are we catching them right now? Again, bottom bouncers and spinners. We'll start with that. What am I using? First thing that I'm using is Berkeley Gulp. I'm using a lot of Gulp on my spinners. I'm going to show you what I like to tip my spinners with. This is a 3-inch Berkeley Gulp Minnow. This happens to be the Fire Tiger color. I also like to use white. I'll use chartreuse and lime. I'll use any of the natural minnow colors as well. Thread these on a hook, and I'll show you in a second what I'm talking about. I've got a spinner down here. I'll show you that. But the Gulp Minnow is great. That's that little split tail. It's absolutely amazing when you put this on a spinner how the tail wiggles back and forth. It just shakes and shimmies. It looks really good. The next Gulp product that I like to use is the Gulp Minnow Grub. This is a 3-inch Gulp Minnow Grub. It's got a minnow-shaped body and a curly tail. So it's a variation of the old curl tail grub. They're nice and dense. They're thick. They stay on a single hook really, really well. Again, thread them on like you're putting them on a jig. That curl tail with a spinner blade, absolutely deadly. These come in many, many different colors, and you'll be happy to hear there's some new colors coming out as well. I got one sample bag of a Fire Tiger version of this, so the same color I showed you before, but in this curl tail grub. That works really well. So these two baits, I'm using almost or more than I am a half a night crawler. I am only tipping with a half a night crawler. I hook it one time very near the end of the worm. Whether it's the head or the tail, I've seen no preference at all. So I want to show real quick here what these look like when I get them rigged up. So this is just a standard number 3 Indiana spinner blade. I've got a single hook, and I've threaded the Gulp Minnow Grub on the single hook, okay? But what kind of hook am I using? I'll show you real quick. This is just the good old bait holder style hook, right? It's got the offset eye so you can snell it on there. Got a couple barbs on the shank that help hold that bait on the hook. But it's got a nice long shank on there. Long shanked hook so you can slide the Gulp up on there and it stays in place. It's really kind of nice when you miss a fish and you can just leave your bottom bouncer down there until that fish comes back. Hammered silver with a white grub has been really good. Hammered gold with a chartreuse or a Fire Tiger is really good. One other spinner that I've had really, really good luck with is the Max Smile Blade. This is UV Glow Burst. It's white in color. Let me cover that up there. Now we're not getting the focus square in the picture. It looks white in color, but it's UV, and it actually has just about every color in the rainbow. This is the size 1.1. I put about 3 beads and a single bait holder hook behind it, half a night crawler or one of those Gulp, either the minnow or the curl tail. But I've had really, really good luck on the Max Smile blades as well. When it comes to colors of spinners, folks, you don't have to get real complicated on Devil's Lake. It's not that tricky. The walleye here eat just a very few things, right? They either eat themselves, which this year I don't believe is happening because I don't think we had that incredible of a walleye hatch. They might eat little northern pike, but I doubt it. But they eat small yellow perch and small white bass. So if you're using something white and silver with a white trailer, if you're using something gold or fire tiger or even a perch colored blade with maybe a mute brown or a dark green trailer, you're going to mimic white bass and perch and you're going to catch fish. Now, I'm not going to say that they don't eat purple and they don't eat blue and they don't eat orange, because they do eat all those colors here as well, but I keep it really simple in my boat. I'm using something white and shiny, or I'm using something, hey buddy, it looks like one of my grandkids decided to come out and watch the seminar today. So I'm using something white and shiny, or I'm going to use something that looks like a perch or fire tiger. So that's what we're doing for spinners. When it comes to crankbaits and crankbait trolling, hey, do you want to come be on TV? Huh? Come here. Come here. Do you want to say hello to everybody on TV? Mm-hmm. Come on. Say hello to everybody. Hello. Hello. Can you tell them your name?
Yeah, I'm in Nevada.
Your name is Nevada?
Yep.
That's nice. Do you like to go fishing with Papa?
Yep.
All right. All right. Can you go?
No.
Okay, can you go stand over there while Papa finishes his work?
No.
Okay, you want to stay here?
Yep.
Okay, good. You can stay here. How about if you show the people what we're fishing with? Come right here.
Whoa.
Okay, I want you to stand right there.
No.
And I want you to hold this right here. Can you hold
Okay.
Can you hold that right there for Papa?
Yep.
Oh, no, hold it right here like this so they can see it right on the video. See that?
Huh?
Okay, so when we're trolling crankbaits for walleyes right now, couple baits that are working really, really well. The Berkeley flicker shads are working incredibly well. Size 5s and size 7s. I've got one of each there. The 5 is on top, the 7 is on the bottom. Those are working very, very well. 5 in shallower water, 7s when you go a little deeper. Again, whites and perch. 2 colors, whites and perch. That's all you really need to know on Devil's Lake are whites and perch. If you want to try something a little different, Shields has a really cool set of exclusive colors. We've got the Wonder Breads this year. Ooh, aren't those cool, Nevada? We've got the Wonder Bread colors. That's all right. Technical difficulties. We got the Wonder Bread colors. Purple head, blue head, and chartreuse head flicker shads. Those are going to work really, really well also when they're eating the white bass and all that kind of good stuff. Another bait that's working really, really well right now are the number 5 Salmo Hornets. And I'm just going to stack these up right here so you can get a look at the colors that we're using that are working really good. It looks like Grandma came to get Nevada. Hey, go get your grandma. Go get her. Can you go get her? Awesome. Thanks for the help, Nevada. Can you say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much for your help. So these colors are working really well. Again, you can see the white in there, white bass imitator. You see the perch colors. The one on the lower right-hand side is called Viking. That's a gold and purple back. And then the blue shiner up in the upper left-hand corner. Those are all some incredible colors right now on Devil's Lake. Man, it's just everybody wants to talk to me tonight. I get phone calls. I'm getting grandkids. My apologies, folks, for the interruptions, but that's the wonder of live TV. So trolling crankbaits in shallow water, I would recommend, if you're going to do that, probably use some either heavier braid or maybe even think about monofilament line. And the reason I'm going to say that is because fishing a crankbait in 6 feet of water with only 10 feet of line out is not probably the smartest thing to do. You want to be able to get 20, 25 feet away from the boat. So maybe instead of using 10-pound braid, go up to 30-pound braid. That's going to give you the diameter of 8 or 10-pound monofilament. It's going to keep that crankbait from diving quite as deep. Or just go with straight 10-pound mono. You're still ain't going to have 20, 25, 30 feet of line out. You're going to be able to feel the weeds back there. You're going to be able to know what your crankbait's doing. You're still going to be able to get a good hook set. Line stretch is not going to be that big a deal. A lot of folks get intimidated trolling that shallow, but I'm telling you, the fish are hot right now. They're really aggressive. They're not afraid to come up behind the boat, grab onto that crankbait. And the monofilament line, again, is not going to be a detriment like it would be if you're in 20 feet of water and you got to let out 160 feet of line. You're not going to have that much stretch. Oh, let's see. Other than that, I'm not real certain what else I might have. Jay, do you have any questions over there on yours? I don't. I see thanks again for hosting the podcast from John Gossett. Well, thank you for watching, John. I appreciate it. I had someone that wants me to invite him over for dinner. That's nice, Karen. I think we could probably figure that out. I think I owe you one. Oh, here we go. Dan Kurowski, I think I said that. What lure do you run for deep diving cranks, 25 to 30 feet? Dan, a couple baits that work really well in that depth range. First one that I reach for is probably a reef runner. The 800 series, I believe it is. That's the full-size, deep diving crankbait. Gets down there to 20, 25 feet on 10-pound fire line with absolutely no problem. The next one would be a Rapala tail dancer, the deep tail dancer in a size 9 or a size 11. Those bomb down to 30, 35 feet. And then one that I'm just experimenting with, haven't really used it a lot yet this year because I haven't been out trolling deep cranks yet all that much, but the Salmo Freediver. I heard a lot of great reports. I've put them in the water. I haven't caught a fish on one yet, but again, haven't really been pulling crankbaits out deep, but those things easily reach the depths of 20 to 30 feet without any lead in front of them. I don't like to put lead in front of my crankbaits because it makes things very speed dependent, and I don't like that. What you need to do, for those of you that aren't into the crankbait trolling much, get yourself the Precision Trolling app for your phone and buy the lures that you're going to need, or get the lifetime data program, and you can look up the dive curves for, I think it's up to almost 400 lures now, 3 different types of line, with lead, without lead, this fast, that fast, and the numbers are spot on. So you'd look up the crankbait you're using, you look up the depth that you want it to reach, and it will tell you how much fire line, how much monofilament, how much lead core. When it talks about lead core, it talks about trolling speed as well. So it's the greatest tool on earth. It comes right on your phone. I use my app daily when I'm trolling crankbaits. There's no way I can memorize all those crankbait dive curves when I'm out there fishing. Got anything yet, Jay?
I do. Kale Scold is asking, what presentations are you using around your slip bobbers right now?
Presentations on slip bobbers. So today I pulled up to the Mauvais Coulee Bridge. Wind was blowing pretty hard out of the north. There was a nice little current seam there, and I spot locked next to the current seam and drifted some bobbers right out next to that current. The bites came faster on jig heads today than they have earlier in the week. So I'm using a small 16th ounce jig head with a little bit of color. Maybe a split shot or two right above it, because a 16th ounce doesn't like to get down in 12, 14, 16 feet of water very well, especially with wind. So I'm putting a split shot or two above it. Colors today, chartreuse and orange were best. Other days it seems like a plain red hook, maybe one little bead in front of it with a split shot about a foot above, again, to pull it down. Now the difference being the lead head jig holds the leech still. The leech will still wiggle. It'll still swim. It stretches out and tries to swim away, but the lead head jig holds it right down near the bottom. And I like to put my jigs about 6 to 8 inches above the bottom of the lake. Some days they want it sitting right there, not getting away. Other days they want that leech to be able to swim a little. Well, the plain hook with a split shot about a foot above it allows that leech to swim around, come up off the bottom, go back down, and other times that can be the ticket. I always start 2 of one, 2 of the other. Whichever ones go down the most often in the beginning, I usually switch it over.
Question from Shane Rust. He's from Minnesota and coming here next week. 2-part question. First off, are there any jumbo leeches to be had out here? And second, when you're pulling spinners, what are the speeds? Fast, slow, etc.?
Okay, 2-part question. First, gentleman Shane coming in from Minnesota. Are there jumbo leeches to be had? Yes, there are. Ed's Bait Shop, I was in there the other day. They had jumbo leeches. Pete's Bait Shop had jumbo leeches as well. But I'm going to say this when it comes to leeches. I'm not a jumbo leech fan. Now, granted, I'm a guide. I need to catch fish of all different sizes. One thing you'll find in Devil's Lake with a really, really large leech, if you get into those 15, 16, and 17-inch walleyes, a lot of times the bobber will go down. You'll leave it down for a 3, 4, 5 count, whatever you determine you need to keep it down, and you'll go to set the hook, and you'll literally feel the leech rip off your hook or your jig because the walleye only had the back half of the leech. I prefer what most people would call large or medium leeches, the ones that are about an inch and a half long, and then when they start swimming, they're about 3 or 4 inches long. I still get plenty of good bites. I still catch plenty of 19, 18, 20-inch fish, but I also catch the 15 and 16 inchers with more regularity than when I'm using a jumbo leech. But that being said, there are jumbo leeches available. I also know Ace Hardware is selling the medium and large size leeches and not the jumbos. So I usually have a little bit of both, but I don't put the jumbos on until I'm done. The second part of that question, Jay, spinners. Speed for spinners, fast or slow. I've been working that 0.9 to 1.1, maybe 1.2 range with my spinners. When the fish are aggressive and they're biting fast and furious, I'm skirting at that 1.2, 1.25. On the days when they're a little bit off, that's when the smile blades seem to work a little better. I can go a little slower, and 0.9, 1.0. If I'm going to go faster than 1.2 or 1.3, that's when I would say put a crankbait on and go 1.6, 1.8, 2.0. Some guys on the better fishing days are going 2.5, 2.6 down the weed edges. They're humping right along and catching plenty of fish. Let's see, I'm scrolling through. Let's see, I know we are still, this is Mike Van Heel. I know we are still in early July, but can you give any information on fall fishing in October? Early or late October, what style of fishing works? Jigs, bottom bouncers with minnows, what type of location that time of year, still the road beds. So, October is a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy fishing in October because a lot of people don't. It means the lake is not nearly as crowded. Typically, the fish start moving deeper, especially once the vegetation dies off. It seems like those fish that are hanging on to the green weeds, when the green weeds die off, they slide out to the rock structure. Most of the rock structure is a little deeper. When I'm fishing in October, lots of things will work. There's two things that come to my mind that work exceptionally well in the fall that you may or may not think of in the summer. The first one is vertical jigging wraps, shiver minnows. Straight up and down, very aggressive jigging motions. Any deep rock structure, anywhere there's current near the bridges. I love to put a jigging wrap on and go around until I mark a fish or two, spot lock over them and jig them up. That's absolutely one of my favorite ways to catch them. And then the next thing I like to do is troll larger crankbaits, number 7, number 9 flicker shads, maybe even some big husky jerks, the new Berkeley hit sticks on lead core and get them down there deep. I like to find long stretches of rock structure with some kind of drop off. You can interpret that as a road bed. The Golden Highway is a phenomenal trolling spot in October. Some of the old lake shores that have a steeper drop that are hard rock on top and transition to mud. There's several of those in Pelican Lake and the Main Lake and Creel Bay and East Bay, and they're all over the place. Tons and tons of that deep rock, and it holds numbers of very, very nice sized walleyes in the fall. So vertical jigging wraps, trolling lead core, and again, look for hard structure with steep drop-offs close by. Let's see if we got any other questions here. Let's see. The setup on the pole you showed, was that a bottom bouncer? Yes, it was. Do you ever run planar boards on Devil's Lake? I would say no. I don't. I'm not saying you can't. Craig Larson asked that question. I'm not going to say you can't run planer boards on Devil's Lake. I'm sure you could, but typically the structure that we're fishing on Devil's Lake is not wide and flat. Very, very few times do I go out on a flat and just pull crankbaits willy-nilly on a flat. I'm usually fishing the edge of something. I'm fishing the top of a flooded road, things that are fairly condensed. So I don't really need to spread my lures out over 40, 50 yards across the lake like I would in the Great Lakes. I'm not saying you can't put a couple planer boards out. There are times where put a planer board out off the edge of the road, maybe a fish that slid out over the ditch will come up and eat a crankbait or a spinner. Absolutely, you could do that. There's times of the year, and it may happen here soon, where the walleye move out over the mud to eat bugs that are hatching. As soon as our dragonfly hatch starts, that will happen, and I'm sure you could put a spinner and a bottom bouncer on a planer board, but you really don't need to do that. Let's see, it looks like Tom Russell says, would you show exactly how to put that white grub on the hook? So let me see, Jay, I don't want to poke you in the eye there. So I'll take this hook off of here and I'll get my grub. And if you can zoom in there, Jay. So I put my hook so it follows the tail. So the grub swims tail up. I put my hook in the nose and I go right through the middle of the bait and out the back. Try to keep it as straight as I can on there so the hook is up. I hope everyone can see that. It's kind of hard with all the writing on my shirt, but I just thread it on like you would on a jig. I start with the tail up. After I catch 3 or 4 fish and that grub starts to get tore up, I just try to find another clean path through the grub. The first thing I'll do is turn it upside down. It really doesn't matter all that much. And there are times when the grub gets so tore up that I'll turn it on its side and put the hook right out the side of the grub too. When this thing starts going through the water, it's spinning and twirling and twirling and spinning. And I honestly don't think those fish can tell the difference if that grub is right side up, sideways or not. Some days, and I think Jay and I have done this when we fish together, we have contests to see how many fish you can catch on one grub. And if you want to get 10 or 12 fish out of a piece of gulp, you got to get really creative how you hook it on the hook. But as long as it's hanging straight and your spinner is still spinning accordingly, you're going to be able to catch fish on a piece of gulp.
I got another question.
Go ahead.
This is again from Shane Russ, but he's asking about any activity pitching swim baits into the flooded or sunken trees.
Yes, you can. There are still fish hanging around the outside edges of flooded timber. The depth of those trees is going to depend on where you're at. I have been throwing crankbaits more than jigs and swim baits because I'm guiding, and not every guide client can feel a swim bait go over a tree branch or tick the tops of the weeds. I can decide how deep the crankbait dives by the lure that I give my clients. So I'm using shallow crankbaits over weed tops. I'm using deeper diving crankbaits on the edge of timbers and brush. The thing that's great about a crankbait versus a swim bait, when that bill hits a log, it will roll over the log and keep going. You don't get snagged as often as you will with a jig and a swim bait. But if you got a good sense of feel, you can count those baits down. Absolutely, by all means, there's still a great jig and swim bait bite shallow, whether it's weeds, brush, timber, even some windy, rocky shorelines on the right day. There's still plenty of fish up close. Looks like I got a question here about bug hatches. Are there any bug hatches on Devil's Lake? If so, when do you usually see them happen? Let's see, that's Tracy Weimers. Tracy, there's some kind of bug like these black flies biting my leg all night long while we're doing. If it looks like I'm dancing around, it's because I'm getting bit by a fly. We have bug hatches all year long. The biggest, most impactful bug hatch we see here in Devil's Lake is usually really close to Memorial Day weekend, and that is the sand fly or the lake fly hatch. This year, I don't know if they record that stuff anywhere, but I'm going to tell you from my personal experience, it was one of the biggest bug hatches I've ever seen. I live right on the lake shore and literally could not open and close my garage door for a week. We had to play games to get in and out of the house, like turn the outside light on the other side of the house so we could get in the front door, because there were so many bugs around the light that you didn't dare open the door to your house. Absolutely horrible. Once those are over, the other hatches really aren't all that significant. There's little nymphs and bugs and flies all summer long. And the next one that's impactful for the fishing is the Dragonfly Hatch. And again, that's going to happen probably the next warm stretch we get. I haven't seen a dragonfly flying around yet in my yard, and usually I see them living right on the lake shore. But once I see the dragonflies start to emerge, I'm going to zoom out to that mid-range mud, 10 to 12 feet of water, maybe 15. That seems to be where a lot of those larvae come from. You'll see them in the fish's belly. They look like a caterpillar. They're about 1.5 inches long, and that can impact the fishing. The walleye will definitely move to where those larvae are, and you can catch them that way. One thing I'd like to make clear, Devil's Lake does not have mayflies. I have never, ever, I've been here 21 years. I've lived in Devil's Lake. I have never seen a mayfly in Devil's Lake. Not the large, long, thin, two-forked tail mayfly that Minnesota has to scrape off the highway with snowplows. We do not have those. So if someone's telling you there's a mayfly hatch in Devil's Lake, it's either the first one I've ever seen or they're confused with what kind of bug they're looking at. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. It looks like worms dangle better, especially for slow death hooks. Yes, that is true. Slow death works really, really well. Leeches on spinners. Curtis asked me that. Sure, you can. I don't. I just like to save my leeches. They kind of come at a premium. Within probably 3 weeks, Jay, I think 3 weeks or so, they're going to get pretty tough to come by. So I can put other bait on a spinner. I save my leeches for bobber fishing. If you can get leeches when no one else can, you can have some pretty incredible fishing. So I'm actually right now stockpiling leeches. I just picked up 3 pounds today. I had about 3 pounds already, and I'm going to do all I can to keep those 6 pounds of leeches around for the next month and a half or so. So I probably won't be putting leeches on a spinner, but they actually work pretty well. Let's see. I think I got all the questions so far. If I missed one, send it again so it pops up on my screen here. Jay, do we have anything else happening on the tourism?
Nope. We're good.
Gotcha. All right. So 743. I think we gave them their money's worth for a free seminar. We did all right. Once again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We're going to wrap this up. Go ahead and keep sending questions if you have them. I will check both sites again tomorrow. If there are questions in the comment section, I will answer them later on. A couple things before we say farewell. Coming up, July, starting here pretty soon, right? I think July, it says the 7th through the 13th, but I know the Fort Totten Little Theater goes longer than that. But anyways, Fort Totten Little Theater starting here next week. Great time. If you're in Devil's Lake fishing, want something to do in the evening, this is community theater. This year they're doing Grease. I saw the cast in the 4th of July parade the other day. They look pretty sharp. They had their choreography routines dialed in for the parade, so I'm sure the little theater is going to be good. Go to FortTottenLittleTheater.com for ticket information. Rib Fest is July 23rd and 24th. There's a street dance downtown on Friday night, and at Roosevelt Park, the rib tasting begins at 5 p.m. until gone. There's a cornhole tournament. There's a DJ one day. Lots of fun stuff. So go to the Devil's Lake Tourism website and check that out. And then August the 7th, I could really use some help promoting this event, those of you out there that have high school age children. The Lakes Region State College is sponsoring or holding what we're calling the Reel 'em In Fishing Tournament. And this is for high school aged kids only. So maybe you have a kid or kids that didn't get in the AYA tournament that's coming up this weekend, and they would like to fish a youth style tournament. We're having one August the 7th. All of the prizes are in the form of scholarships to Lake Region State College or chamber bucks, which are good at any Devil's Lake Chamber member business in Devil's Lake. There is no entry fee, but there's a $40 fee for the meals at the rules meeting. So come on out, check that out. You can check it out at www.lrsc.edu, and there's a link there to the Reel 'em In tournament. You can see the details. It's all catch, record, release. It's multi-species, so you don't have to win it with walleyes. You can win it with white bass, northern pike, yellow perch, whatever you get into. But we'd really like to see a big turnout. High school fishing is becoming a really big deal. Several teams in Fargo, Jamestown, trying to get things rolling up here in Devil's Lake. But we would like to get some high school age kids, freshman through senior, up here fishing Devil's Lake, show them what our community is all about, show them our community college. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe they want to come to school here, study some stuff at Lake Region State College, do a little fishing, maybe some hunting, and get a first couple years of college under their belt here in Devil's Lake. We'd love to have them. So once again, thank you all very much. And we are going to sign out now. Everybody, good luck, and we'll see you on the water. Have a good one.